All right, boys, welcome back to another college football week 5 video. Yesterday we went over quarterback projections. I'm going to tell you all my favorite running back and wide receiver matchups for week 5 in college football now. So we're going to get right into it. We're going to be starting with running backs. But before that, if you want a free week of premium, click the link down below in the description. Use code WEEK on our monthly pass. You'll get that free week applied to your subscription. Just use code WEEK or just click the link below. It'll take you there directly. Also, if you want to tail these props on either of these apps, you can get $25 whenever you sign up on Dabble with code MorrisBros. Absolutely free, no deposit needed. And then on Sleeper, they're giving you a deposit match up to $100 whenever you sign up with code MorrisBros as well. So you can tail these props on either of these apps. If you wish, get a deposit match or a free 25 or both, whichever you prefer. Let's get into it, starting with running backs. So the first running back that I love this week is going to be Bryson Washington. I don't believe there's a lineup for him yet, but I would take him all the way up to probably 110 yards rushing. They're playing Oklahoma State, and that also reminds me I need to bring up another tab so I can show y'all the defenses that they're playing. Hang on. College football, what is it? It's like, here we go. All right, so Bryson Washington versus Oklahoma State. If we look up what Oklahoma State is allowing on the ground this year, whenever I'm looking for running back lines, I'm looking for how many yards per carry the opposing defense is allowing. I think it's just rushing defense. Yeah. Okay, yeah. So we're going to look for yards per rush, and that's going to be what we want to focus on. Okay, so Oklahoma State is allowing 5.36 yards per carry, which is a ton, and we see the amount of carries that Bryson Washington is averaging this year. He has, fucking 80 carries? He has over 80 carries through the first 4 weeks, so he's averaging a little around 21 carries per game. So 21 times 5.36, I'm no mathematician, but y'all can put it in a calculator if you wish, but it's right around 110, 115 yards, I would imagine. So I would assume his line is probably going to be around 110 to 115. I like it at that. I would take it all the way up to 120 this week. I don't know what they'll have it at, but Baylor is also a 20-point favorite in this game, so they shouldn't be passing that much anyways, because they should just be looking to run out the clock after they get a certain amount or certain lead. I would assume once they get up by like 14 to 20 points, they're just going to run the football. So look to take Bryson Washington for Baylor over 115, 110-ish. That's what I'm assuming his line's going to be. And that's also why I'm not big on Sawyer Robertson this week, because Oklahoma State's defense is terrible. They should be able to pass, run, whatever they choose, but Bryson Washington's going to get his carries. We see it here. 31 carries against SMU, 21 against Samford. So even if they play a trash team like Oklahoma State, they're still going to feed him. So I like him for that. Or you can take him for 2 rushing touchdowns, because his line for touchdowns is going to be at 1.5. I'm going to tell you that now. He's not going to be at 1 rushing touchdown. He's going to be at 2. So if you want to take him for 2 touchdowns as well, that's fine. Oklahoma State allowed 5 this year through 3 games, but a guy like Bryson Washington, I would look to take him for 2 touchdowns. So either up to 120 yards rushing or 1.5 rushing touchdowns, whichever you prefer. That's what I like for him. That's the first running back we're going to start with. Next up is going to be Dean Connors. He plays on Friday night, I believe, against who's he playing again? He's playing Oregon State. Oregon State also very, very bad against the run. And we see that Dean Connors is getting fed whenever he needs to. So 15 carries, 13 carries, 22 carries. That's pretty good workload that we'd like to see. And then let me see if I can find Oregon State here. Look up their yards per carry. Nope. Did not mean to book that. Oregon, are they on here? Yeah. Oregon State, 4.93 yards per carry. So he's getting around 16 to 17, times that by 5. Like I said, I'm no mathematician, but I think it's around 80. He should be around 80 to 85 yards. That's what I would have his projection at. They have him at 72.5 on the books right now. I've already taken it. So I recommend that you take it too, over 72.5. Against Oregon State, I think they're favored in that game as well. We can look. Yeah. They're 13-point favorites in this game, so they should be running the ball as well. They shouldn't be caring to pass it that much. So I would definitely look to take Dean Connors over 72.5 yards. I like it all the way up to 80 to 85 yards rushing. Not a whole lot else to say with him. That's pretty straightforward. His line's already up, so we know what it is. But moving on. Next up, we're going to the Syracuse running back, Yasin Willis. I really like this line now because Steve Angeli just got injured last week. And you saw how many carries he got against Clemson once Angeli was out. And they started running the ball a lot more. So I would assume they're going to do the same against Duke. Sorry, thirsty, parched, talking this amount. Plus, I think Syracuse is the underdog, which isn't great for rushing, but it should be a close game. It's not like they're going to be losing by a lot at any point in the game, at least not by what the spread dictates. So it should be a fairly close game. They should be running the ball, even though they are the underdog. But let me see if I can find Duke. Got to find Duke's yards per rush allowed. Let me see. Here we go. 3.86 yards per carry. Not ideal, but let me show you why I still like him. Okay, so Duke has played NC State, Tulane, Illinois, and Elon, right? Okay, so if you look at Hollywood Smothers, who is a really, really good running back, he had 17 carries for 123 yards, 7.2 yard average per carry. And then we look at Tulane. Tulane's quarterback, which is weird, ran for 111 yards, but they didn't really give any carries out to the running backs. But this running back right here still averaged 5.4 yards per carry, so that's pretty good. And then Illinois, Caden Fegan he's been disappointing this year as a running back, so I don't want to take too much into account with him only getting 48 yards and 17 carries. If you look at their backup running back, he had 6 carries for 44 yards, so that's more like it. They are giving up a ton of yards rushing, so I don't really care too much about this number at 3.86. Some people would be kind of scared by it. I'm really not. I think it's a good line. Or I guess we don't have the line yet for Yasin Willis, but I do like him all the way up to around 83 yards rushing. That's probably what I would put him at, especially with Syracuse having a backup quarterback in. Ricky Collins is the backup quarterback. I think they'll rely on their running game a little bit more than they normally do. Normally they just chuck the ball, but I think they're going to go to the run game a little bit more in this game just because it's a backup quarterback. So I would look to take Yasin Willis around 82 to 83 yards. Anything below that, I would take him over. Now, moving on to a guy we just mentioned, Hollywood Smothers. Where's he at? Here we go. One of the best running backs in the country. You see that they feed him regardless of if they're losing, winning, whatever. Plus, he's had 320-plus yard games in a row. Now he's facing Virginia Tech, who isn't great against the run. Let me see if we can find them. See what their average yard per carry is. 4.6 average yards per carry. If we look up their games that they've played and see who they've allowed yards to. Let's see. They played Wofford, so I don't want to compare Wofford's running backs to Hollywood Smothers because that's just not really accurate. Old Dominion, I mean, I would still say Hollywood Smothers is better than their running backs, but they had a running back average 7.8 yards per carry, 5.1 yards per carry. The quarterback had 7.9 yards per carry. I don't really care about a quarterback's average, though, because we're talking about running backs. Vanderbilt had 11.9 yards per carry, 7.3 yards per carry on their running back, 16 yards per carry. So, I mean, they're allowing a ton of yards per carry. We'll look at South Carolina. South Carolina, 5.7 yards per carry and 4.3 yards per carry. So they're giving up a ton of yards per carry whenever you look at the actual game log. And Hollywood Smothers is one of the best running backs in the country, and NC State has shown that they'll feed him regardless. So I like him. I would expect his line to be at 110 to 115, which is really high. Anything lower than 110, I would take over. If it's at 110 or higher, I would just stay away. But like I said, we don't know the lines yet, so I'm just giving you all the best matchups that I see and what I would take their line up to. So Hollywood Smothers, I would take him up to 110 over his rushing yards. Now, for the final running back of this video, then we'll get into wide receivers. We're going to go to L.J. Martin for BYU. Great matchup for him this week. Although he hasn't seen a ton of carries in the first 3 games. I mean, he did against Stanford and ECU. I would expect him to see a lot of carries against Colorado, okay? Especially because BYU is 7-point favorites, essentially. And they're at Colorado, so normally whenever you're on the road, you want to rely on your running back a little more, especially if you're the favorite. And like I said, they are 7-point favorites, so they should be leading in this game theoretically. And then if you look at Colorado's yards per carry allowed, they're not even on this page. They're on the next page. They're on the last page, which means that they're really bad. Colorado is allowing 4.55 yards per carry. So he's averaging, 15 carries a game? I mean, you can do the math, but it's around 70-ish yards, 75-ish yards. So I would take LJ Martin all the way up to 75 yards on his rushing line. He has had 3 games in a row of 100-plus rushing yards, so he might be overvalued. But if you can get him anywhere from 70, I would even take him up to 80 now that I'm looking at this. If you can get him under 80 rushing yards, I would take him over. Anything over 80, I would kind of stay away. But like I said, I'm just giving you all the best matchups that I've found so far this week for running backs. So to recap, Bryson Washington against OK State, I would take him up to 110, 115. Dean Connors, his line's at 72.5 right now. I would take him up to 85. Yassine Willis versus Duke. I think I said I would take him up to 85 to 90. I can't remember. Go look back at what I said whenever I was looking at him. But I think I said 85 to 90. Hollywood Smothers, I would take up to 110. LJ Martin, I would take up to 80, 75 or 80. So, yeah, that's the recap of the running backs. Now let's get into the wide receivers because we have a lot of them. I'm going to try to go through these as fast as possible. But the point of these videos is to just kind of explain why I like these guys and give y'all some insight on the best matchups possible. So, first guy we're going to take is Cooper Barkate against Syracuse. Syracuse has allowed a ton of passing yards. I think some of the most passing yards allowed in all of football. We might have talked about this yesterday in the quarterback video. Let me find passing yards allowed. Here we go. But yeah, Syracuse allows some of the most passing yards in the country. Yeah, 296 passing yards in the country. 296 passing yards per game. Can't even talk right. Which is a ton. And we know Duke loves to throw the football. And then if you look at Barkate's targets, he's seen 8 targets, 7 targets, 10 targets, 6 targets. So he's going to get the targets, especially against Syracuse. I would imagine he gets 7 or 8 targets in this game. So yeah, he's one of my favorites. And like I said earlier, this should be a close game between Syracuse and Duke. So I would look to take Cooper Barkate over, probably 65 or 70 yards, somewhere in there. Another guy that you can look at for Duke is Keyshawn Brown, but I'm going to choose Barkate over Brown. This is who the guy I was talking about. Just because Barkate sees more targets per game, and that's what I care about the most, is who's getting the most targets, who's getting the most looks, and right now it's Barkate. So I would look to take him, but if you want to go Keyshawn Brown, you can as well. Moving on to the next wide receiver, Omega Blake. I got to put in the apostrophe. Omega Blake against, who is it? Arkansas is playing. Arkansas is playing Notre Dame. Notre Dame's allowed a ton of passing yards. Miami threw for a ton. I mean, they only threw for 205, but they were up in the game, so they started running it. We saw what Marcel Reed and Texas A&M did against Notre Dame, and then Purdue also threw a good amount of yardage last week against Notre Dame. So Omega Blake and Arkansas should look to be throwing the football, especially against Notre Dame where they are underdogs. Although I don't think it's a severe underdog. I think they're only like 4.5-point favorites or something. If I can find it. Yeah, they're 4-point favorites, so Arkansas should be trailing, meaning they should be throwing the football. And Omega Blake is their top target. We can look through his targets, but 8, 7, 9, and 9. So I would imagine he might even see double-digit targets in a game against Notre Dame, especially because they could be trailing. But I know for a fact his line is at 62 right now. I like that over. As you see here, he's had 121, 64, 81, and 60. So I like it over 62.5 this week against Notre Dame. All right. I know we're speed running this, but I'm just trying to be efficient. I don't know how they do this. There we go. Okay, Mississippi State. We're looking at two wide receivers. We're looking at Anthony Evans and Brennan Thompson versus Tennessee. Gunnar Stockton had a field day against Tennessee. So did Steve Angeli for Syracuse. I would expect that Blake Shapen is going to be all right against them. I don't expect him to have as great as a game as Gunnar Stockton did, but I could imagine we see a Steve Angeli-like game for 280 yards. And these two wide receivers for Mississippi State are who I will be looking at. It's Anthony Evans and Brennan Thompson. So it's kind of you choose who you would rather go with, or you could choose both of them if you want with Blake Shapen, but that's up to you. I'll probably be looking at Brennan Thompson. Anthony Evans has seen 4 targets, 14 targets, 4 targets, and 5 targets in 4 games. But if you look at Brennan Thompson, he's seeing more efficient targets, I should say. 9 targets, 8 targets, 4 targets, 4 targets. That's what I like more. I would probably lean on Brennan Thompson more than I would Anthony Evans, but I do like them both in this game against Tennessee, where they should be looking to throw the ball nearly probably 60% of the time they'll be passing. So, yeah, I would look to take Anthony Evans and Brennan Thompson this week at wide receiver against Tennessee. But yeah, weather looks good too, so that's not a concern. And the high point total, it's probably be a high-scoring game. Okay. Moving on to a wide receiver that nobody really knows about because he plays for San Jose State, but we're going to look to take Danny Suduro, or however the hell you say his name. Well, you'll see. It's like Suduro. Danny Suduro. This guy has seen 41 targets through 3 games, 15 targets, 16 targets, and 10 targets. I would take his line anywhere from 100 to 110 yards. If it's lower than 110, take it. If it's over 110, stay away. But I love this guy. I don't even know if we'll get a line for him this week. But if we do get a line for him, I'd be looking to take him because this guy sees so many freaking targets. It's insane. And San Jose State is not afraid to gunsling the football. Plus, they are slight underdog against Stanford, but I don't think that really matters a whole lot. But Boston College threw for a shit ton of yards against Stanford. I would expect San Jose State to have the same kind of output passing-wise. Moving on, another underrated wide receiver is Pofole Ashlock for Hawaii. They're 7-point underdogs to Air Force, so they should be looking to throw the football. The only problem here is that Air Force will look to run out the clock sometimes, but I don't think it's really going to matter because this guy gets a ton of targets as well. I'm just going to get rid of this tab. But let me pull up Pofole's game log. This guy has seen 49 targets through 4 games, or through 5 games, I guess. Okay. But still, that's still a lot. So 10 targets, 8 targets, 13 targets, 8 targets, 10 targets. So he's seen 8 targets in every game so far this year. I would expect to see the same kind of target share this week against Air Force. I like him all the way up to probably 85 yards, even though he's only hit that 1 game. Air Force does allow a ton of yards through the air. So I would expect him to be anywhere from 75 to 80 yards on the books, but I'd like it up to 85. So if you can get him under 85 yards, look to take him over against Air Force. This next one, I shouldn't even have to talk about that much. It's Jordan Tyson. Jordan Tyson is facing TCU on Friday. So this is probably the best wide receiver in college football. If you don't know him, get to know him because 17 targets, 10 targets, 9 targets, 12 targets. He'll probably see 15 targets in this game against TCU, and that is not an exaggeration. He's at 90 yards on the books. I like it up to 100. But yeah, he's the best wide receiver in football. I would take him at any amount up to 100 yards against TCU. He's going to have a huge week this week, and if he doesn't, then I'll eat the bullet. But he's going to have a big week, I promise. If he doesn't, I'll just eat it. But I expect a big week from Tyson against TCU, who allows a ton of air yards. Plus, I think this is going to be a close game and a high-scoring game. There is going to be some rain, which scares me a little bit, but not a whole lot. Like I said, he's probably still going to see 15 targets. So I like Jordan Tyson all the way up to 100 yards. Next up is going to be another pair of wide receivers from the same team. It's going to be Mario Craver and KC Conception. Probably Craver is the one I like a little bit more just because he sees more targets, but You see here, Craver's been up to over 100 yards in every game. And Auburn isn't the best against the pass, but they are really good against the run. So I would imagine that TCU will be throwing the ball more than they are running it. But Conception as well, 5 targets, 8 targets, 11 targets. So I like both these guys over their lines. I think Craver's at 70, and I think Conception's at 62. I wouldn't take both of them in the same slip, but I would mix up which ones you take in different slips. So KC Conception, Mario Craver, love both their lines this week against Auburn. Now, moving on, we have 4 more wide receivers to talk about, so let's get to it. Hank Beatty versus who are they playing? Hank Beatty versus USC. USC has allowed a ton of yards to Purdue and Michigan State. Hank Beatty is the wide receiver 1. I know it says Colin Dixon is, but if you look at Colin Dixon, he's only had 18 targets this year, while Hank Beatty has had 25. So he's the clear wide receiver 1 in my eyes. 5 targets, 9 targets, 6 targets, 5 targets. Against USC, he'll probably see upwards of 9 to 10 targets. I think his line's at 58.5 right now. I like it up to 65. I wouldn't take anything over 65, but if you can get it all the way up to 65, I would take it anything less than 65. So take him over all the way up to 65 yards. I think he's at 58.5 right now, so you can get some good value there. Next up, Ryan Williams versus Georgia. Had a great game against Georgia last year. I kind of expect the same thing this year, especially because he just got cooking last week against Wisconsin. I would expect to have 8 to 9 target game for Ryan Williams. He had 11 targets, 6 targets. In this game, he had a blowout, and he still dropped 165 yards. His line right now is at 65.5, I believe, 67.5, something like that. I like him all the way up to 75 yards for the over on Ryan Williams against Georgia. If we look at this game, should be another close, high-scoring game as well against Bama. There is some rain, so that kind of scares me a little bit. But it's only a 49% chance, so nothing guaranteed. So I like him all the way up to 75 yards for Ryan Williams. And then, let's see what else. Malachi Fields. A lot of people don't know about Malachi either, but he played for Virginia last year. Finally transferred to Notre Dame. Oh, shit, I spelled his name right. Okay. Finally transferred to Notre Dame where he can actually get attention. But if you look at his first 3 weeks, he's had 3 targets, 11 targets, and 2 targets. 3 targets against Miami was kind of weird, but he had 11 against A&M, which I expected. 2 against Purdue. They were in a blowout in this game, so I don't want to factor this in too much, but they were running the football a ton in this game, so he only saw 2 targets, and he still had 78 yards. He's an absolute dog. I would look to take him over, 65 is my limit for Malachi this week, but I found him at 54. I found him at 60. Both of those are fine. I like them all the way up to 65 yards against Arkansas, where we just saw what Ole Miss threw for 350 yards against Arkansas. So CJ Carr's impressed me enough to be able to feel confident enough to take one of his wide receivers over. So I do like Malachi Fields this week over 65, but nothing more. All right. Last but not least, Makai Lemon. Jacoby Lane is out. They're facing Illinois. Who just allowed a ton of yards to Indiana. Illinois' defense looked really good all year until they faced Indiana last week, and they showed that they are susceptible to the pass, and nobody passes it really much better than fucking USC. So, Makai Lemon, absolute dog, 8 targets, 6 targets, 8 targets, 8 targets. With Jacoby Lane out this week, I would expect a 10-target game, especially because this is another supposed to be high-scoring game between USC and Illinois. 60-point total. And they're only 7-point favorites, so we shouldn't be worried about a blowout and USC just running out the clock. I would look for Makai Lemon anywhere. I think he's at 94.5 yards now. I would take him all the way up to 105. I know that seems like a lot, but I do love Makai Lemon, especially with Jacoby Lane out. I would look to take him over anywhere up to 105 yards. He's at 94 right now, like I said. I got him at 88, and I got him at 90. So I would take him all the way up to 105. But that is my favorite running backs and wide receiver matchups for Week 5 in college football. Next up, in the next YouTube videos, we'll be dropping our slips for college football. But I just wanted to kind of give you all my quarterback projections and my running back and wide receiver favorite matchups before we started giving out slips. So hopefully y'all find this video helpful. If you do, leave a like, subscribe, push me out to the algo. I appreciate y'all. Like I said, if you want a free week of premium, it'll be linked down below in the caption, so just click on that. If you want to tail these or find somewhere to tail these, go on Sleeper, go on Dabble, get your deposit match on Sleeper, get your get your free 25 on Dabble. Use code Morris Bros on both to get those, and like I said, the week free, it will be linked down below. All right, that's all I got. Appreciate y'all watching. I'll see you on the next one. Peace.